Hey guys, good evening. Merry Christmas, first of all. I don't know if you can tell, I've just barely started recovering from a sickness. So if my voice sounds a little bit funny, then please forgive me for that. That's why I'm wearing this jacket. I'm trying to keep myself as warm as possible. But anyways, today's topic, I want to discredit this long-standing myth that is oftentimes perpetuated in our academic world, and that is America uh, founded on white supremacy, and is it systemically racist? And the answer to that is obviously no, it's not. Um, because here's why, right? First of all, when somebody makes an argument in the affirmative like that, the burden of proof falls on them, right? So, in other words, you cannot claim that America is systemically racist and expect me to provide evidence that it's not, because I'm not making the claim that America is systemically racist. You are making that claim. And so, by making that claim, the onus and the burden of proof now lies with you, right? So, what that means is you have to come up with a way, right? And that doesn't mean like by artifice or by trickery, but make a case for why you think that. Um, right? Because you have to understand, first of all, you have to define what is systemic racism, right? Because there's obviously the classical definition, which is the fact that America used to discriminate against blacks, against other minorities, and prevent them from getting jobs due to their skin color. There was the doctrine of separate but equal in 1896 at the U.S. Supreme Court. I forget what it's. I believe it's Plessy versus Ferguson. But anyways, there was no separate but equal. Oftentimes, the black schools were more downtrodden than the white schools, and so on and so forth. So it was definitely not separate but equal. It was separate and unequal. So, however, a person would be hard pressed to find such examples today. And this is why, since there are only peripheral examples of such blatant racism, what has happened right now is a lot of the pro, people on the pro side, right? The proponents of this theory of, or I should call it like a hypothesis, they claim that, well, now like racism has become more subtle, which is a very tricky one, right? A lot of people claim that, okay, so right now, yeah, a lot of people don't say the N word outwardly. They don't display overt forms of racism, but they display covert forms of racism. And a lot of it is usually they implicate very benign comments, um, you know, uh, or even positive stereotypes right now are racist. So, really, this is a game that you can't win, right? Because it's not designed for you to win it, it's only designed for you to lose and to acknowledge your intellectual inferiority and ignorance, and to submit to these authoritarian fascists who, while claiming to be, paragons of the truth, but they are anything but. And so, what they're really standing for is a far left doctrine, a far left ideology and interpretation of United States history. And so, while one can obviously acknowledge the discrimination and the racism that has occurred in our society, because you would be blind and ignorant to think there was no discrimination against all these individuals. However, to claim that the system was designed to operate that way is a very, very, very far stretch, and you would be hard pressed, because you would have to explain why such an ideology would make economic, social, political, religious, scientific sense, right? Because people don't just operate based on ideology for such a long time. There's usually, the story is much deeper than that. And so people are not going to waste all these resources in order to prove an ideology, right? So there's there has to be something that they gain from doing those things. And so, but America was actually designed for religious freedom, right? So the pilgrims who came here in the 14th century, or I'm sorry, in the 15th century, they wanted to escape the religious persecution in Europe, and they wanted to establish a homeland in the New World, and they wanted to establish freedom for any and all who inhabit there. That doesn't mean it's only for straight white men. It meant everybody. So in the Constitution, when it is saying all men are created equal, first of all, that also includes women, right? Because back then that was the common way of speaking. When people said men, that means they're also including women into it. So we can't look at it from our modern perceptions. And they also included everybody into this category, right? So, what a lot of people will point out and say, okay, well, they were racist. A lot of the founding fathers had prejudiced attitudes towards blacks, towards Indians, towards women, and so on and so forth. And that is true. Like that's not something that can be denied. However, there is a difference between a personal attitude and the way a person acts and the laws that they put into place, right? So somebody is obviously capable of being prejudiced, but not necessarily supporting laws or instituting laws or behaving in such a way as to display that prejudice. Now, obviously, nobody's perfect, right? So we don't want to fall into the trap of assuming that all guilt lies at the feet of European people and that Africans and Indians and women and all these other people are completely innocent, and that if it wasn't for straight white men, the world would have been more peaceful. That's obviously foolish and naive to believe. However, we also have to understand our human imperfections and the fact that we all struggle with the truth, right? We don't always know what the truth is. So we get kind of glimpses of it here and there, and we try to like piece it together and try to figure out what the entire truth is, but we're never going to necessarily figure out the entire truth. However, the most honest position that anybody can take, whether they're on the political and social left or on the right, they need to pursue the truth as much as they can and to allow themselves their viewpoints to be shaped by the evidence, by the truth, not by their ideology, right? The ideology should simply be as a result of the interpretation of the facts, not, the other way around. So no, America is actually not a systematically racist country, not anymore at least. And even when America was systematically racist, and there were laws that were designed to disadvantage minorities, such as blacks and others, there were still many, many examples of blacks and other minorities who succeeded and who became famous, and who, even if they weren't famous, they were able to climb the socioeconomic ladder and become recognized and become productive citizens of American society. And so it doesn't, I think that it's very shallow and myopic to only think that America is just this one thing. It's not this complex, organism that is made up of many different parts that are working together. No, it's just this one thing. It's a racist society that produces racist actions, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, there's nothing you can do about it, so why talk about it, right? But the reality is, America is not systematically racist, and now we have more and more minorities and people from all over the world, from all walks of life, who are partaking in the American dream and are succeeding. Now, is it always easy? No, absolutely not. Do some people have more privileges than others? Possibly. But the point still stands, and that is living in America, especially as a minority, It's far better than living anywhere else in the world, and I challenge you to give me any evidence to prove otherwise. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys are enjoying your Christmas holiday, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.